So hello and welcome to the final lecture, the concluding lecture of this course. I am Ark Verma from IIT Kanpur. This course was titled Introduction to Advanced Cognitive Processes and was basically meant as a continuation of the course that I launched last time, which was titled Introduction to Basic Cognitive Processes. In the last course, I have talked about visual perception, attention, aspects of memory. We also had talked a lot about conceptual and foundational issues in cognitive psychology. We spend a lot of time talking about the history of where cognitive psychology actually comes from, and also we did something related to research methodologies, because that was very important, cognitive neuroscience, because that was very important to understand the kind of experiments that I would have used across the course of the entire course. Now, in this course, basically I took matters further from where I had left off in the last course. We talked in the beginning about knowledge, and we talked about visual imagery. We talked about knowledge in the first week of the course, then about visual imagery. Then we spent around a good 2 weeks talking about different aspects of language. Now, I just kind of take a moment and tell you why I spent a couple of weeks on language. Language is one of the most intriguing cognitive functions, that understanding of which kind of helps you understand so many other cognitive processes as well. Acquiring language, acquiring this concept of speaking in words, understanding syntactic organizations, all of those are very important and in some sense crucial to really understand how your memory works, how the knowledge and categorization things work, and say for example, how does the emotional thing work. You would have seen that we've also used aspects of language, say for example the framing effect in decision making and reasoning and those kind of places. So that is one of the reasons why I wanted to spend, and apart from language being one of my core areas of research, that I spent a good 2 weeks talking about language. I hope that would have helped you appreciate the enormity of the kind of cognitive function language is, and the varied issues that are involved when you're talking about language. Obviously, then we moved on to talking about decision making and reasoning in the fifth week, I guess, and then we talked about problem solving and creativity. We talked about cognition and emotion, various aspects of it, and how various aspects of emotion. Now, emotion is also a very interesting topic that I covered in this course. See, the course is higher cognitive processes, so we are not really talking about the basic building blocks, but we're talking about just a level above. How do the basic building blocks get affected or affect processes like our thoughts, our decision making, our rationality, so on and so forth. So cognition and emotion was a very interesting chapter that I thought I did. And then in the final chapter, I think I could have done this one earlier, maybe in the last course, and shifted some of that material here, but while I finished all of this, I thought it might be a good idea to really talk to you about how all of these abilities have developed. How did they start when the infant was conceived? A lot of things start from the mother's womb as well. Again, it will take me back to language. In the last trimester of the woman's pregnancy, the child is already hearing, the auditory system has formed, and the child is already hearing and recognizing the mother's voice. The child is already attending to the prosody of the speech that is around the child. So the point is that I thought I'll just kind of try and give you a whole tour of starting from conception onwards. We talked about prenatal influences as well. How do the different abilities of the child grow into once a child is a younger adult, or in the last lecture when the person is an older senile adult as well. We talked a little bit about the nature nurture debate. In the initial lecture, I talked about the biological factors, and then I talked about the cognitive development in some detail. Jean Piaget was one of the most influential theorists when you talk about cognitive development, although we discussed some of the other theories as well. We talked about things like metacognition, we talked about things like theory of mind, moral judgment, and those kind of things as well. We talked about incidentally about social development as well, the Erikson's 8 stages of development, and I'm sure you should pay a lot of attention to that, because that's very important in understanding what is the role of the parent in bringing the child up, what is the role of the society in bringing the child up into a healthy, a positive individual. So here I stand. I think I have covered all of these topics in sufficient detail. I was just discussing with somebody that if you look at both the courses, any cognitive psychology book that you will pick up, I've covered every topic from most of the books. I think I compared 7, 8, 9 books. Everything that you will find in any of these books has been covered in the two courses, and I would hope that people who have attended this course will have done it with a lot of interest, with a lot of curiosity, and I would have been able to contribute in kind of satiating that curiosity a little bit. Now that's about the course. Something that I also wanted to talk to you about in this final lecture is the fact that how are you going to prepare for the exams. I think a lot of you have not really registered for the exam. There's a rather small number who've registered for the exam, but for people who might want to do it later, or people who are anyways registered for the exam, I would like to tell you that the kind of questions that you've been seeing in the assignments will basically be serving as the template of what you're going to see in the exams. One of the things that I would place extra stress upon is do grasp the concepts very well. Pause it, rewind it, move it further. These are videos, you have the luxury of playing this over and over again. So use that luxury, understand the concepts as better as you can, because a lot of things you will need to connect when you are supposed to answer the questions in the exam. Also, from the perspective of the exam, it is very important, it is absolutely imperative that you remember all of the studies that have been done, at least most of the studies, because a lot of questions might basically be talking about or gaining or grasping information from the experimental study. See, cognitive psychology is pretty much an experimental enterprise. We are basically saying anything that we are saying on the basis of experiments that somebody has done, on the basis of research that somebody has placed 10, 15, 20 years of their life working upon. So it's very important that you grasp the concepts very well, do it as well as you can, and it's also very important that you kind of the understanding of concepts will get better if you start paying attention at the experiments. So these are the two tips I would like to give you in order to prepare for the exam. I hope it was a good learning experience for you, even for people who are not really directly linked with cognitive psychology in their spans of work. But I would assume that all of these things that I have talked about in this course will be useful for you wherever you are and whatever you are doing. Thank you so much.